Now, we should be shocked by the violence of the poker night scene. But I don't think we should be shocked, but we are affected somehow by the passion of the balcony scene, the second greatest balcony scene in literary history. And I think it's supposed to disrupt us as an audience. I think it even disrupted more in the late 40s, early 50s, when the play was first produced. What were you to make of the relationship between Stanley and Stella? This is a relationship based on desire. Now, we know that Blanche has issues and problems and mental instability, but here we're with Blanche watching what's happened to Stella, and we are confused. Maybe we take the position of Blanche here, of being judgmental, of questioning this relationship. But Stella really pointedly defends her choice, and she defends it via this idea of desire, being something more, and also just her love for Stanley and the world that she's accepted. She is turning her back on Bellerive, and in this scene you really see that push and pull a great deal. Again, let's start with the stage directions. So expressionistic, so poetic, saying so much more than what you could expect a director to just interpret plainly. There's a confusion of streetcars like a choral chant. So the street sounds sound like a choral chant, almost religious. Is that what is supposed to be suggested there? Well, yeah, because she looks serene. She's at peace. And she's stroking her belly. She's enjoying being married in maternal bliss. I think it's important that she's reading colored comics. You know, she is not highbrow in the way Blanche is. But then we get a really interesting description. I gotta move some things. Her eyes and lips have that almost narcotized tranquility that is the face of Eastern idols. So if you look up pictures of the Buddha, narcotized, drugged, peace, quiet. She's completely in a way, almost the suggestion is almost of enlightenment. You never see Blanche like this. Never this calm, serene acceptance. The debris from the last night, the junk, the garbage, and Blanche comes in and she's biting her knuckles and she contrasts completely to Stella. So you have the peace and calm of Stella, and again that's juxtaposed with the action of the last scene, and contrast with that is Blanche's complete nerves, excitability, hysteria, female anxiety, particularly associated with this, a kind of manic energy. She makes a moaning cry. She really wants to be protected. Baby, my baby sister. This detail about the knuckles gets repeated. It's some sort of nervous habit we haven't seen. Perhaps it gives some indication to the actor of a choice. And he's gone. And Blanche is, I'd say, understandably upset. And upset like we might be with this reality that Blanche has not only been hurt, but that she's gone back. How could you come back to this place? Why, you must have slept with him. Like, that's obviously what you've done. Because I love Stella here. She's trying to calm down her sister, and we get some insight. Again, I've forgotten how excitable you are. You get really jumpy. You get really, look, you're making too much of this. Blanche is unconvinced. Am I? Yeah. It wasn't as serious as anything as serious as you seem to take it. When men are together drinking and gambling, it's a powder keg. something that's going to blow up. He didn't know what he was doing. He was as good as a lamb and very ashamed. Okay, so yes, this is passion, but this is also the language of abuse. It wasn't his fault. He didn't know what he was doing. He was drunk. He was gentle as a lamb, and he was ashamed. Simultaneously, we're getting these two positions. She acknowledges that it's not right for anyone to do this, but he's always smashed things, she says. On our wedding night, he took one of my slippers and smashed the light bulbs with it. Okay, so we get that motif again of light and violence, the smashing of these bulbs. It seems really crucial. It's an act of celebration. It's an act of, it's a useless act other than creating darkness. It's symbolic of what? He did what? He smashed the light bulbs with the heel of my slipper. She's laughing. You let him? You didn't scream? I was thrilled by it. I was sort of thrilled by it. Passion, energy, drive, darkness, and the implication of sex. All of that is in this moment, and this is what Stella is drawn to. But Blanche isn't. She says he's a madman, and she thinks Stella's in a worse situation than she is. And, you know, Stella doesn't even know the full extent to what Blanche is suffering. But she says, you're in a worse situation than me. And Stella has this line that she's going to repeat. I'm not in anything I want to get out of. She emphatically defends her marriage. You don't need to save me. I'm fine. And this marriage is fine. And she repeats this a number of times. And she says it right again. I am not in anything that I have the desire, that word jumps out, to get out of. And now she switches topics. She's just looking at the mess in the room. And she's talking about cleaning up. And then she has this interesting line I didn't notice till rereading. Oh, well, it's his pleasure. Like mine is movies or bridge. People have to tolerate each other's habits. So again, she's justifying his behavior. I mean, is it... So his habits, as she calls them, are they violence, drink, gambling, hitting her in front of people, making a huge scene? And is all she's hoping for is tolerance? We've just got to tolerate each other? And Blanche finds this like a kind of broken switching of sentences, a Chinese philosophy. One tube smashed, beer bottles, mess in the kitchen. You act as if nothing out of the ordinary has happened. And I think that's a revealing phrase. It isn't out of the ordinary. This is Stella and Stanley's relationship. This is them. So it's not out of the ordinary. Blanche is upset that I won't have you cleaning up for him. Then who's going to do it? Are you? I? No, I didn't think so. That, again, shows us something. Who cleans? Not just the woman, but Stella. Blanche is too above it somehow. Which makes me think about Belle Reeve and who was doing all the cleaning and caring. And it makes me imagine that sense of decay completely that came with kind of aristocratic manners, but without the backup of actually taking care of things. Blanche isn't going to clean up. Stanley's not going to clean up. It's Stella. Stella has to clean up. So she's got to tolerate. She's got to figure it out. And in comes this elaborate fantasy of Blanche's about Shep Hutley. Shep Hutley is a millionaire who is literally sprouting gold in his pockets. So that's a wonderful... How literally? I mean, what do you mean literally? No, not literally. He is very rich. He's apparently getting this from oil mines, oil wells, and she's met him when going to Miami on Christmas Eve. She randomly bumped into this guy that they knew when they were younger. And she's saying he's got millions. He's got tons of money. Now, he could bankroll them to get a shop. And it's like what he spends on women, his wife spends on just the races. And stuff. Oh, he's married. Yeah, well, she says in a kind of bitchy, really funny way. Honey, would I be here if the man weren't married? Okay, now look. The question is this complete fantasy? Or did she sleep with Shep? I think the text is open. I don't think there's a way you fall down on either side. But what you see is Blanche's propensity to go into these fantasies, to think of solutions, to imagine or insulate herself from the reality. That's what she's doing. She gets upset when she's trying to figure out what she's going to say, and she said, look, you never get anywhere with direct appeals. And this is an elaborate way of turning into Blanche has no money at all. And Stella noting this, Stanley doesn't give me a regular allowance. He likes to pay bills himself. Again, he is in charge. And you got to think, for me, AO3 here, and AO3 really should come out, the cultural context should come out of the text. What's coming out here, for me, is the financial situation of married, unmarried women. How do they make money? How do they live? How do they deal with finances? That's something, I think, that Williams is looking at here. So he doesn't give me an allowance, but he gave me $10 to smooth things over. Again, the abuser's regret. I'm not judging, okay? Because simultaneously, they're in a desire, passionate relationship. But a lot of the language that Stella uses is reminiscent of that kind of justification. And Blanche says, look, I'm not going to take the money. I'd rather take to the streets. Now that's pointed, because even though it's not stated explicitly, there's some sense that she was a prostitute in Laurel. That's how she was staying afloat. Either that or something else, like entirely, that she had great sexual perversity. But it seems to me that she was a prostitute, and that sticks out, this idea of taking to the streets. Money just goes. She just, like, how do you have no money? She just goes places. I don't know. She's stressed. She wants a kind of a bromide, a kind of a drug that will numb her or make her sleep, so she doesn't have to worry about this, to kill her nerves. Again, it's drink, it's drugs, constantly with her. Just like fantasy, insulate her from pain, from thoughts. She goes back to her fears. I can't live with him. He's your husband, but I can't be here. There's no separation, you know? We live in the same room. It's impossible. There's just curtains. I mean, that's important to think about. If you want to think about, this is the second night that's Blanche has been there, and then she's going to be here over the course of a few months, and we have to ask ourselves, are Stella and Stanley having sexual relations after this night? Where's that passion? Where's that frustration going? There's a lot of questions that come up here. And also, they're basically in the same room. There's no division between them. Stella's defending him. No, you saw him at his worst. No way, Blanche says. I saw him at his best. Animal. Best. Worst. He's an animal, she says. And he has animal force. And it's the only way you can live with a man is to, and she hesitates, go to bed with him. That's your job, not mine. But there is the suggestion, I mean, it comes up here, and we know eventually they do, though it's through violence and through Stanley's aggression. But there is now the suggestion that with that animality, the only thing to do, that violent animal desire, magnetism, whatever you want to call it. I don't know magnetism, but there is something. The only thing to do is sexual relations, and that's not for her. She's saying it's for Stella. But by even bringing that up, there's a suggestion. I think there have been interpretations, certainly, that think about Blanche's desire for Stanley. I'm not party to that reading, but that doesn't mean that at least it's not present or possible. And I think it's much more complicated than that. And I think that she's frightened by him. But she acknowledges that sex is the way this thing is going to go to. Stella Blanche's, we got to get out of here. And again, this is you take it for granted that I have something that I want to get out of. She is pushing back. You just think, for you, I'm not you. I am not you. I don't want what you want. We want different things. And Blanche starts appealing to the past. Don't you have memory of Belle Reve? Well, here we have to ask, what is Belle Reve in their mind? What is Belle Reve in their memory? What is class? What is culture? What should she be thinking? How should she think about these poker players? Stella repeats this. You're just taking too much for granted. You just think I'm like you. You just think that what you want is what I want. Blanche says, okay, look, I get it. She changes tack. Blanche is one for switching strategies. I get it. You were blinded by the brass. Stella defends herself about that in scene 1. Okay, he was in uniform. He looked really good. And Blanche says, now don't tell me you have some mysterious electrical love, like, again, think of Romeo and Juliet. If you do that, I'm going to laugh in your face. Well, Stella goes a little bit further and says one of the most important things in the play. There are things that happen between a man and a woman in the dark that sort of make everything else seem unimportant. Unimportant in the dark. I mean, that motif again of light and dark, seen, unseen. Well, here is sexual passion between a man and a woman, and she's elevating that to say that everything else is meaningless almost. And I don't think this is lust, okay? But this is something of love, physical, beyond the physical, suggested here. And Blanche says, no. What you're describing is just brutal desire. Brutal desire. The name of that rattletrap streetcar, ding-a-ling-a-ling, this is the name of the whole play. What is desire? Desire is the name of that streetcar that goes rattling through here. Goes up one narrow street and down another. And Stella carries that metaphor. Have you ever ridden on that streetcar? Do you know what it means to just be on desire? Do you know what it means to be on the streetcar named Desire? Do you know where the desire itself is carrying you? And Blanche says, yeah, I do, actually. It brought me here, both literally and metaphorically. I'm not wanted, and I'm ashamed to be. I'm not wanted, and I'm ashamed to be. Desire is dangerous, Blanche seems to be saying. Stella pushes back. You really have a superior attitude. I think here we get this class judgment. That's AO3. I'm not being or feeling at all superior. Believe me, I'm not. It's just this. This is how I look at it. A man like that is someone to go out with once, twice, 3 times when the devil is in you. So you go with a type of man when desire, now equated to a devil, is in you. Like you have to get to, but you know, something you have to expunge out of you, something you have to deal with almost. But she says it's not something to live with or to have a child with. But I love him. And then she says, okay, I tremble for you. I fear for you. I fear for you. So this is that first chunk. I mean, this is a few chunks of this scene. And I'm going to stop the video here and take you to the end of the scene. But what I want you to notice is the way desire is is being played out as central to the relationship between Stella and Stanley, and how it is for Blanche to witness that, and her objections to that, and her verbalized objections. And she's gonna go further. She's not done with saying what she's uncomfortable with.